I've got a helper. And I want to share that. And I'll just say this. Pastor Frank gave me freedom to move this around or delete what I need to or leave out. And it's awesome because I already have had a moving piece that's going to the end, not the beginning. But it's all right. Riley, goodness, we have developed such a good friendship, and a gift from God, I feel, is what you are to me, because she's in Sunday school class. She listens to everything and will tell me 3 or 4 weeks later something that I said, and I go, so I know that she's intent, that she is learning about the Lord. And when I told her last week we wouldn't have Sunday school this week, that I was going to be out here sharing a message that I felt Jesus wanted me to share, she said, so we're not having Sunday school? I said, no. And you're talking? And I said, yeah. She said, to big people? I said, yeah. Because that's what I had told her, that I'm comfortable with kids and I'm comfortable with youth. But this just doesn't happen, folks. So, like, I have chilly bumps because I'm here. I'm like, have I had some temporary insanity happen here? No, the point is that she said to me, when you're up there, I'm going to be up there with you. She volunteered that. And I just, I love you for it. I love you for being willing to do that. And you can stand if you're comfortable, or sit, or whatever you need, or get a chair. It all works, but thank you for being here for me, with me. Okay. And she told me this morning she would hold my hand if I got really bad nervous, if I start shaking. So, God just gives us comfort in all kinds of ways, and that was extremely comforting to me, that she was willing to put herself up here, because that might not be easy for her either, because we've seen her learn and grow with her offering prayer. So it's just awesome that he's working all these things out.
She has Riley Jr. up there with her.
She does today, yes. So, one of the pictures, I don't know where it is, it's not that one, but the one where I'm in a pink dress and I'm holding a hamster, or my son used to tell me, I think it was a gerbil, but I don't know how you even know the difference. So anyway, I love animals, and so I was holding that. The reason that I selected that particular picture is I was living what I thought was the good life. That was way back before any of this other stuff happened to me. And you can see, I thought I was healthy. I was happy, in some form of happiness, and I was huge. I mean, I'm big right now, but I was bigger, okay? And what I found out is, on this experience that I'm going to share with you, and the things that have come to me and how I've learned and so forth, what God was going to do was shortly show me what true happiness was, get me in better health, more than I even knew I needed, and he took 80 pounds from me. So, and I've been told maybe I'm going to lose a little bit more, which is good, but I'll just be whatever size he wants me to be and be happy with it. And that's why I don't mind if you see my big picture. It's okay. There's some worse pictures than that up there. So you'll see them too. But I want to start by telling you, and hopefully I'll lose the nervousness and shaken if I have any as I talk, because I realize you're family and friends and that you love me. You're not here to hurt me. But I know that I heard Jesus' voice. Sometimes I actually hear an audible voice. The interesting thing is nobody else hears it. But I hear a voice sometimes, and I have tried all kinds of techniques in the past, being human, since we fail sometimes, and I would argue with God when I would hear something and say, you don't really want me to do that, or you don't really want me to drive that way, or no, I'm not going to say that. And that never works. Okay, you shouldn't argue with God. Learned that. So this time when he said specifically one piece that's in here, to share it, and then when I said something to Frank about it, he was okay with it. And all this other stuff just started, like pieces of a puzzle, if you can imagine that, flying or floating and just fitting together. And I was like, wow, God, you were serious. So somebody here, I'm sure there's a part that is for you. And all he did was, because I was willing to let him have my voice and willing to get up here and say what it is he wants to be heard. Somebody here needs it. I don't know why, but I'm sure it's a good thing, because that's what he does. He takes even the messy stuff and makes it useful and good for us and for his benefit. So, on December 5th, on December 5th, 2018, I had a serious car accident outside of Harrington, where I was entering the dual highway. I was unconscious for a short while, and when I woke up, I was trapped in my car, and it had spun around, and I was looking at the intersection I had come from. That's the first thing I was like, whoa, I'm in the wrong direction. The next thing was I thought the car was on fire because I had never been in a vehicle where the airbags had deployed. And that smoke looks, it's dust, but it looks like smoke. So, you know me. That's why my recessed lungs started working right away. I was screaming, please get me out. I was begging everybody and anybody who could hear. There was one poor gentleman, bless his heart. He must have been the first vehicle to stop. And he had a crowbar from his car, and he was trying hard. He could tell where the impact had been. What the impact was at that front tire that you see this bad picture of. And the door next to me kind of like accordioned, if you would, so it couldn't open. And it's also what broke this shoulder. And the man kept saying as I was screaming, I wasn't being ladylike. And he said, ma'am, I'm trying my best to get the door open. But he said, I thought this was great. He said, I want you to listen to the siren. The emergency people are coming. Help is coming. And in the meantime, I'm going to keep trying to get the door. So he tried all his might. He never did get it open, but that's all right. He was encouraging, and he was letting me know, because I kept saying to him, I think I've got a fire. I think I've got a fire. I was really panicky about going to burn in the car. And then the next thing that happened was even more exciting. I heard someone say, you can't go in that door. You can't get in that door. And this was talking on the passenger side. There wasn't anybody in, nobody was in the car with me. And I don't know why the person said you can't get in that door. One side of the car, see, doesn't even look damaged. But that voice said, you can't get in the car. And the voice said, I'm going in. And a lady came in the car with me. And I know you all are like, Ms. Val. There was a lady in the car with me. Now, I was in shock. I was talking just so fast and so loud. I said to her things like, where are my, I remember going like this, where are my glasses? My glasses had flown off. They were all the way in the back of the vehicle. We found that out like 3 days later. But, and I said, my phone, don't call my mom. It'll give her a heart attack if she finds out I've had an accident. That's what, and I said, I don't know where, and she said, I asked her other things anyway, and I said to her, I think that there's fire. And all I could see, she came in, she put her left arm up over my shoulder and had her hand like here where it was hurting. And then her other arm, the car had a console, and she had it, that's like she was using that like her arm like a post to hold herself up. It's bizarre. I don't remember any backside, any legs. I didn't see that part of her. I only saw up here. A beautiful face. I could draw it. I've been tempted, but I'm not an artist, but I could give it a shot. Maybe I should talk to one of those people who makes pictures, I could let them know. But she was gorgeous. And she's all this stuff that I was saying to her, and they were still trying to get me out. And so the next thing that happened is the fire truck got there. I'm assuming that's a truck that they came in, or ambulance or whatever. And I heard a fireman, and he was cursing outside the car. And I was like, okay, there's a lady in here with me, and he's cussing, and I don't usually, I was just like wowed by that. That doesn't happen for me. And what he was angry about, I heard someone else, I think the man with the crowbar, and he asked him what was wrong, and he said, look at the traffic. They won't stop. So cars had backed up, but somebody, or maybe more than one, they were coming, they passed around the cars and went in the median, and they were driving past my vehicle. And that fireman said, I remember him, it registered with me, he said, we don't know if somebody else has been ejected. There could be somebody out there that they're going to hit. I didn't know who had hit me or who I had hit, or I didn't know what had caused, how the accident had happened. No recall of that. So, long story short, this lady continued to minister to me when that fireman said, the cars won't stop, and he used curse words, and then the lady in the car with me undid her arm. She took it off of me for a minute, and it held herself up with this hand on whatever was there, seat console or something. She took her other arm and took a hold of my steering wheel, which had a deployed bag between myself and the steering wheel. She took and pulled her hand, so her body, I'm here, the airbag's here, the steering wheel's here, and she's pulled herself by holding onto the steering wheel up over. She's laying in front of my chest now, and her hair, very specifically, was touching the window of the door. That's how far she went up over me, like to protect me. And I said to her right away, don't do that because you're putting yourself in danger. He just said cars they're not stopping. And I said, if they hit us, it's going to hurt you. She turned her head and looked right like this close to me and said, you are going to be fine, and I'm going to stay in the car with you until help gets here. Her exact words. You're going to be fine, and I'm going to stay with you in the car until help gets here. So with that, the next noise I heard, somebody had been sawing or doing something on the back. They apparently sawed the back window out. It was like the station wagon, and a fireman came in that door. That where they had cut out, somehow in the back, and he started right away telling me to hold still. So I was moving a lot. He said, you need to hold still. I'm going to put a collar on. And he said, your seatbelt is on, but the seat is gone. It has broken off. And he said, I'm going to let you use me as a seat. And with that, he put his hands under my buttocks. Okay. And he said, I need you to relax, lay back. So he had this big thing. Oh, I thought it was choking me to death. This big collar. And then he just told me to lie back. And he said, we're going to do what we need to do to get you out. Because they still didn't have me out. Didn't have the door open. And with that, somebody somewhere handed him a sheet. And he said, I'm going to cover you. And my thought was, I'm not dead. Don't cover me up. But he covered me up and talked to me the whole time. And you could hear, I guess it was the jaws of life. And they took the windshield out and they cut on the door and all of that. But I said to him, I want you to know that this lady, and I literally went, this lady, I thought she was still there because he had distracted me by putting the collar on and having me lean back. And when I said this lady and looked, not in the car, she was not there. Folks, this is not from the guidepost. This is something I lived. She was in the car with me and she was gone. And she did exactly what she told me. I will stay with you until help gets here. Help came in. She went out. How could I miss that? Oh. So, but the wonderful thing is, I had read things before that were touching like that. And like in Guideposts, for example, or heard people speak of it. It really changes you and jerks your attention when it's you that experiences it. So I'm just here to tell you, if you ever need somebody to say, are there beings that look like people that might be from heaven sent? Yes, there are. That's the gospel truth. So the good thing is, I totally went off of this. I don't even know why I wrote it. Yeah, because I'm supposed to do what the Lord wants me. So I told you about them coming in. Let me see where wow, I just did a whole lot of talking. Okay. It took 4 men. They were doing the cutting and all that stuff. And when they finished, I said, well, how can I help to get out? And the fireman who was holding my back, he said, don't move at all. We got this. And I don't know how they did it, just quickly. In a minute, they had me out of that car, 4 people. I don't know what they did. It didn't hurt. But they got me out, and I was on the stretcher the next thing I knew. And the stretcher was being wheeled into the ambulance, and her face was over there, just kind of like where that stuff's in the wall. Just that lady's face. I will never forget it. And she went like this. I wrote a Facebook post, and I asked other people who said, Valerie, that was your accident that we stopped in the traffic for. So I know they were there, but nobody else saw the lady. She was there for me, and it just when you know that God does stuff like that for you. It changed my life, and I have never been the same person since then, and there were more miracles to come, which I think are going to come out in a minute. But anyway, 4 days after the workup from the ER, that's when they, verified. I knew something had been done, but I didn't know what. It was a level 5 separated shoulder. I think I put that in there for Berta, and she's not here. But it's not Berta, it's Herta, right? Anyhow, bless her heart, I knew she would know what it meant, and it was really busted up pretty bad. Only repairable by surgery. And when the doctor called, she said, but that's not the first problem we have to address. And I said, what? She said, you have an abdominal tumor. What are you going to do about that? And I said, well, I didn't know I had it. So the next miracle was having the accident is how we found out that I had pancreatic cancer. I had an apple-sized tumor tethered to my pancreas, and that's why I thought I always looked 9 months pregnant, and I wasn't pregnant. It's not that the tumor was that large, but the other things that caused in my body caused me to just keep putting weight right there, right there, right there. And what happened is the doctors here, I had tests, and I went and saw a surgeon in Dover to get the surgery scheduled for my shoulder, but he said, but the pancreatic cancer is more important, so we have to, that trumps, so you need to go. I got a referral to a doctor at Johns Hopkins and went to see him, and he said I had had a biopsy in Dover, and he said the particular type of cancer that I had, he said, you've had this 5 or 6 years. It's slow growing, not rapid growing, and it will be easier to care for you and for you to heal if you can use your shoulder. So he sent me to get the shoulder surgery in March, and then in May, he removed the pancreatic cancer, the tumor, and half my pancreas and a whole bunch of other stuff. He did this surgery called the Whipple. It's just basically a digestive system rebuild. Like when you redo a car, well, it's a human rebuild. So they removed part of my stomach, the half of the pancreas, the place where all the junctions are made, like they took that out because it was messed up with the tumor, and kind of made a man-made so that the bile that you need and different things would all come together. And then the top of my intestines, I forget, isn't it awful? I don't know if it's small intestines or large intestines, but a little bit of that too. So, and 30 days later when they got the pathology report, and I was in the office, I had 4 times in and out of the hospital after my surgery, but the first one, the ladies were almost like skipping into the room, and I said, what is wrong with y'all? They didn't usually act like that. And they said, you're the first patient in a long time. When he got your cancer, he got it all, every drop. No chemo. They had told me I might have to have chemo and I might have to have radiation. And she said, I'm not even supposed to tell you, but she said, this just never happens. And she said, you have less than 1% chance of ever having anything to do with this kind of cancer. It's gone. That was 30 days after the operation. I was just like, the miracles just keep coming. So, and I think, so I had my shoulder fixed, and I got the surgery, the Whipple, and then all kinds of problems started. That's because God was getting a lot of glory, and Satan attacks us when that happened. And so I had issues about even just a little bit before the appointment where they told me they had gotten all of the cancer, and then it got much worse, where I couldn't even take my medication that I needed to take. When they take your pancreas out, then there's medicine you have to eat for digestion. You have to take for the rest of your life. And I started not being able to keep my medicine down. All my food was coming back. And the weight was coming off like it was supposed to from this. That's one of the good effects of the surgery. But it was more than what they wanted, more rapid than it was supposed to be. And so that's why I had the 4 times in and out of the hospital. And I ended up having to get a feeding tube, and they couldn't do it the first time they put me to sleep because my stomach after the surgery didn't stay where it was supposed to, and it was over under 2 ribs. So when they went to do the incision to put the feeding tube in, there was no stomach to put it in. They closed that back up, brought me awake, and I said, I'm like this, waking up, and I said, where is it? And the lady said, we didn't get to do it. she said the doctor will be in. He told me that it didn't go standard. And I was like, that figures, that's me. And so, long story short, 4 days later, they put me asleep again, but had a specialist come in. And how did they tell me? It was weird. They inflated, going down my throat, inflated the air in my stomach so he could see exactly. I mean, they could tell where it was, but so that he would be able to overhear it. He put the feeding tube in over here. I have a scar that's over here for where my tummy is. So anyway, you can live with your stomach there. It's all right. But he put that in. The trouble was where it was located with my ribs. I had to have it from July until October, and it rubbed an ulcer on my skin because of the ribs. It's sitting in the ribs, so that was nasty and a mess. But as Frank can witness, I would call and say to him, well, I ate a matchbox-sized piece of chicken, right? That was a big thing when I got that much chicken down. So it was just learning to eat again very slowly, and the medication staying down and on, and it was all a success. So the ins and outs in the hospital, you saw a nurse's picture at some point, and I can point her out again at the end, but where I'm laying in the bed and she's smiling. Her name is Sammy, Nurse Sammy. She was a huge influence on my recovery, and also I seemed, when I talked to her, she never really witnessed to me, but she was a Christian. I know she was a Christian. But she never said it. You could tell she worked like as if I was Christ. She worked with her patients like she was serving Christ. You know, that's what I mean, it felt different. It was different than any other nurse. Hence the picture. I said to her, I won't share your name or like her last name and stuff. I said, I won't tell people that, but I want to tell them about your nursing because it's made a difference in my life. Honestly, everybody was coming in and out, and they were always poking and prodding, and you got to take this medicine, and can you do this, and can you do that? And sometimes she would come and just put her hand, I'd be laying there in the bed doing nothing because I was a bad girl for a while and was like that. And she would put her hand like this, and I'd say, what do you need? Do you have to check my sugar, or do you this or that? And she said, nope, I got about 30 seconds between my patients, and I just came to hug you. I just came to touch you. I just came to check on you. Those kinds of, and she did that not once. She did that at least 50 times. She was my constant. And I remember her scolding me because right before they put the feeding tube in, I was giving up. I was very fearful, and I was just frustrated. I mean, when you swallow pills 3 times and they come back, and you keep swallowing them and they come back, it got really bad. And she said, you have got to get your mind on something. Your heart and your mind, you got to do something that you can. She said, I know it's limited, but she said, I'll get you word searches. I'll put games on your phone. We can turn the TV on and try to find just a 30-minute game show. But she said, you have got to not think about how bad you feel. You got to concentrate on something else. And she came back that day repeatedly until I did something. So she made me watch Jeopardy for 30 minutes. But she thought that was funny too, that's what I picked, Jeopardy. But my point is, I learned something from her nursing. And so when we have Nurses Week, it is special, and that's just been, it's close. But she has no idea the impact, but she's about to know, because when I go back for this surgery, and the doctor told me I'm going to have to walk a whole lot, so I'm going to find out if she's there anywhere, and if there's a day that she's there, then I'm there. Guess what? I'm going to go see her if I can. Now, I'll be masked up, and I'm sure I'll be all right. But I want to see Nurse Sammy because she was so important. And the other thing that's not written in all my notes, this is funny, I didn't do a whole lot of this, but in my time, I did finally get my head screwed back on the right way and start talking to the Lord and not just wallowing in my pity. And I learned about prostrate prayer. I remember seeing a pastor's wife who had lost a child laying on the church floor one time. And I thought, that's really strange. I don't know if I would ever do that. How awful of me to judge that. I had no idea what that lady was feeling, nor did I have any understanding of the praise that she was giving Jesus in the middle of her grief. Now, I prefer my personal prayer time with Jesus to be flat on the floor. These are okay. But he really likes it when you submit completely. And it's just become really important to me. And I'm talking about the close time when you're not in front of somebody else, or when you're by yourself and you just want to sometimes talk to the Lord, but sometimes just listen. Try being flat on the floor. It's awesome. He's there. He's there, thick in the air. I feel present with him more, almost like you could touch him. So enough on that, but there's something special about that. And it happened when Sammy was ministering to me. That's when that change happened with me, when I realized I don't just need to mouth prayers. I need to really commune with Jesus. And she didn't say those words. Isn't that awesome that it was her actions that led me to that conclusion? Yeah, it's pretty neat. So let me see what I can do. All right. The center of what I felt that I was supposed to share today, I forgot to look at that. Let's see, I'll read it like this because it's a way to say a whole lot in a little bit of sentences. On June 11th, so it was a month after my surgery, not quite a month, I had just started recovering from the Whipple surgery, and Sarah Maddox, the mom of the household where my daughter now lives in Idaho, she wrote me a card. Sarah did. And at that time, Kirby wasn't living with her. She was doing missionary work in Ecuador. But Sarah was on a church team from Nampa that was preparing to go down and volunteer short term with Kirby. So they had already made a connection at church because the organization that Kirby was ministering with was housed in Nampa. That's how they encountered and met each other. Now, Sarah's card read to me. It's just a regular little card, but oh, how important encouragement is. It says, "Hey, Ma, I had you on my heart a lot this morning and have been praying for you. I'm so glad to hear about the progress that you're making each day in your recovery. I know it seems slow, but it is expected. You are doing splendid." So notice how she twisted that negative to a positive. How are things for you and Mom? Are you enjoying being with Will, Stacy, and the boys? Because we stayed at their house when I got discharged from the hospital each time. How's your appetite coming along? By the time you get this, you will have seen Dr. Wolfgang. How do they feel that you're doing? I'm so glad that you've been covered in prayers, love, and encouragement. In my experience as a PA, it really makes all the difference in a patient's recovery. I wanted to let you know that we did receive the packages you sent for curbs, and I will be taking them down in July. I've been staying busy with working and mommying. Jesse and I are looking forward to seeing Kirby in about a month and a half. The boys are on summer break. Jesse Jr. and Toby go to church camp at the end of the month, and they are all looking forward to getting spoiled by my parents when we go to Ecuador. Keep your chin up, Ma. You're loved. Love, Sarah. So this is just a friend of my daughter, but things like this, I write a lot of cards now. A lot of cards. The people who ministered to me taught me how to be a better person, how to have a better relationship with Jesus, how to help other people. And it doesn't, how much does it cost to take a little card or even a card you made and write in it and send it? It's something, but boy, does it have meaning. Okay, this is what she sent me, and y'all are going to get to take a copy home if you choose at the end. Sarah enclosed a copy of a story in the card, and she told me it was her favorite all-time devotional. And I pray that it's as encouraging to you as it was to me. Okay, the teacup story. Behold, like the clay in the potter's hand, so are you in my hand. Jeremiah 18:6. There was a couple who used to go to England to shop in beautiful stores. They both like antiques and pottery, and especially teacups. This was their 25th wedding anniversary. One day in this beautiful shop, they saw a beautiful teacup. They said, "May we see that? We've never seen one quite so beautiful." As the lady handed it to them, suddenly the teacup spoke. I know it sounds crazy. Hey, there was a lady in the car with me that nobody else could see, right? So the teacup spoke. It said that we can get this lesson. "You don't understand," it said. "I haven't always been a teacup. There was a time when I was red and I was clay. My master took me and rolled me and patted me over and over, and I yelled out, 'Let me alone!' But he only smiled. 'Not yet.' Then I was placed on a spinning wheel," the teacup said, "and suddenly I was spun around and around and around. "Stop it! I'm getting dizzy," I screamed, but the master only nodded and said, "Not yet." Then he put me in the oven, and I never felt such heat. I wondered why he wanted to burn me, and I yelled and I knocked at the door. I could see him through the opening, and I could read his lips as he shook his head and said, "Not yet." Finally, the door opened, and he put me on the shelf, and I began to cool. "There, that's better," I said. And he brushed and he painted all over me. The fumes were horrible. I thought I would gag. "Stop it," I cried. And he nodded and said, "Not yet." Then suddenly he put me back in the oven, not like the first time. This was twice as hot, and I knew that I would suffocate. I begged, I pleaded, I screamed, I cried. All the time I could see him through the opening nodding his head and saying, "Nope, not yet." Then I knew there wasn't any hope. I would never make it. I was ready to give up. But the door opened, and he took me out and placed me on the shelf. 1 hour later, he handed me a mirror, and I couldn't believe it. I was beautiful. It was me, and I was beautiful. "I want you to remember," he said, "I know it hurts to be rolled and patted, but if I left you alone, you would have dried up. I know that it made you dizzy to spin around on the wheel, but if I had stopped, you would have crumbled. I knew it hurt, and it was hot and disagreeable in that oven, but if I hadn't put you in there, you would have cracked. Those fumes were bad when I brushed and painted you all over, but if I hadn't done that, you never would have hardened, and you would not have had any color in your life. If I hadn't put you back in that second oven, you wouldn't have survived very long because the hardness would not have held. Now you are a finished product. You are what I had in mind when I first began with you." So the moral of the story is God knows what he's doing, not just for me, not just for the teacup, for all of us. He is the potter and we are his clay. He will mold us and make us so that we may be made into a flawless piece of work to fulfill his good, pleasing, and perfect will. How important, Riley, could you get me another tissue, please, sweetie? To do his will, not ours. Okay, it wasn't my idea that I wanted to stand up here and speak today, but the Lord wanted it to happen, and he gave me all the things to say, and even redirected what I had here, so it's much better speaking to you than I thought it was going to be. Okay? I had worked it up in my head, as we can sometimes do. Shortly after I received Sarah's card on June 30th, lifetime friends of mine, Donna and Ronnie Mitchell, I could tell you stories for hours about them, how they've been in my life at important times. Thank you, baby. I don't care. That's good. I just need one. Thank you. So, thank you for the help. So Donna and Ronnie, they sent me another card as well. And I thought it was neat that the date's on here. It was just a couple weeks afterwards when I was going through a really bad time. And it read, oh my, nose, come on. It's going. Sorry, excuse me. Okay. She said, just a note to let you know that we and others are keeping you and the family lifted in prayer through Crossroad Prayer Chain. We have enclosed a daily bread story. So I was like, oh, another story that gives us the assurance and comfort to know that God is always with us in the before, present, and after in times of distress in our lives. He is before all things, and in him all things work together. Colossians 1:17. My presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest. Exodus 33:14. Rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing in prayer steadfastly, Romans 12:12. And she wrote love and prayers, and here's the story, okay? And it's not too long. Present in the storm. Fire swept through the home of a family of 6 from our church. Although the father and son survived, the father was still hospitalized while his wife, mother, and 2 small children were laid to rest. Unfortunately, heartbreaking events like this continue to happen again and again. When they're replayed, so is the old age question, why do bad things happen to good people? It doesn't surprise us that this old question doesn't have new answers. Yet the truth that the psalmist puts forth in Psalm 46 has also been replayed, rehearsed, and embraced repeatedly. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. The conditions described in verses 2 to 3 are catastrophic. Earth and mountains moving and sea waters raging. We shudder when we imagine being in the midst of the stormy conditions poetically pictured here. But sometimes we do find ourselves there, in the swirling throes of a terminal illness, tossed about by a devastating financial crisis, stung and stunned by the deaths of loved ones. It's tempting to rationalize that the presence of trouble means the absence of God. But the truth of Scripture counters such notions. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. He is present when our circumstances are unbearable, and we find comfort in his character. He is good, loving, and trustworthy. Father, help me to trust the truth of your word when it's hard for me to sense your care or presence. I had fear for the first time, real fear, when I was waking up from the surgery, which was 2 days after my operation. I was asleep from Wednesday when they did the surgery until Friday night. And when I woke up Friday night, I was scared to death. Wherever my mind was, it was pitch black. And I told you about this in church, Frank. Nobody really told me it was okay to be scared, and I was a little bit ashamed because I love Jesus. I loved Jesus before. I just didn't have the same relationship that I have with him now. But Frank told me it was okay to be afraid. And that meant the world to me. Still does. And I remember it anytime I start to feel that little creepy feeling that it's okay. We're human. And so, but it's just good that we have God and we can call out to him and go to him when we have that. Now back to Sarah, okay, because Donna and Ronnie had sent this story from the Daily Bread. And so Sarah also sent me a piece of paper with her favorite quote, happens to be a Mother Teresa quote. People are often unreasonable and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people accuse you of ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are honest, people may cheat you. Be honest anyway. If you find happiness, people may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today may be forgotten tomorrow. Do good. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give your best anyway. For you see, in the end, it is between you and God. It never was between you and them. And I'd like to conclude with what I'm saying. By saying this just came in the mail on some other kind of flyer thing, and it's perfect. And I was like, well, there's the little end, Lord. Maybe it's not about the happy ending. Maybe it's about the story. Let that sink in again. Maybe it's not about the happy ending. We always, all I could see was, I need to be healed. I need to be eaten right. I need to be... No. Look at what happened through the accident, through the letters that I got, through the phone calls, the prayers, meeting Sammy the nurse, how I was able to grow. Like, all of that, it's the journey that we need to pay attention to. We don't need to wait. I've seen something like this, and I didn't write it down because it's not, like, scriptural or religious or anything, but it's true. Don't save that dress, ladies. If there's a dress that you want to wear, tonight's the night. Like, don't wait for it, because we don't know if we're going to be here tomorrow or not. So if you've got something fancy, or even new slippers or something, don't save them things. Just use it. Same way with eating. If you're out, and I understand, you might weigh 300 pounds like I did, and maybe you shouldn't have chocolate cake every day. That'd probably be a good thing not to. But if you're out and there's a chocolate cake and you've never seen such a beautiful chocolate cake and you want a piece, Valerie would say, get it. Okay? Especially if you can eat it. But, you know what I'm saying? It's not reaching to something. Those goals are nice to meet. It feels good when you do those. But I don't want to get to the end of my life, whenever that is, and realize, good grief, I missed what was really important. And that has come through over and over and over in this theme. The people that you meet. You might only meet somebody one time. You best say or do whatever the Lord's leading you to do. You know, if it's to give them a high five, okay. If it's to hug all over them, well then cover them up. Do it, because we have to take advantage and make the most out of everything. Everything you do is important in the Lord's eyes. And this sounds crazy, but it's true. We have this little mound where our house is. I don't know how to explain it. But when you get in the car and you're going to go to town, you get up, the front part is up a little bit. And I can go to Milford this way or this way. I can get there a whole bunch of ways. But I say to him, which way you want me to go today? It does matter. And hey, even if I'd have asked him that question before all this happened, he probably would have still took me to where I got run into. Because that's how we found out I had my cancer, and that's how we got rid of it. It needed to happen. Whew. But this is some strong stuff. What it does is reassure me in my heart. I am never alone. Whether I'm on the floor, whether I'm in the car, whether I'm with other people, or whether I'm, seemingly by myself. You're not alone. Amen. If you ask him to be with you, he will. Which leads me to, I'm going to say something about each picture just a little teeny bit, but at the end, I thought it was up at the beginning, and he said, tell you this at the end. We're going to sing, "Oh Come to the Altar." We are hurting and broken people, overwhelmed by our sins and by whatever's happening, like in the world right now. Jesus is calling our souls. We need a friend. And I got good news for you. His arms are not open like this. His arms are open like this. His arms are open wide. All we got to do is step toward him and say, Jesus, I want you. Thank you for what you did. I was 10 years old. I'm 60. Well, I'm not 65 yet for a few more days. On the 28th. I'm 64. Okay. But a lot of years ago, I was 10 years old in a church that was a fish market. We were in a fish market because we didn't have a church building. Pastor Tidwell was preaching, and he was preaching to me. Okay, he might as well have had a cheerleader's megaphone. When he gave the altar call, it felt like he was just coming right at I just was like, ain't nobody else hearing this, because why aren't they wiggling like me? And I gave Jesus my heart that day, and that's what he wants more than anything else. Is if you haven't had that experience, or even if you have, sometimes when I was 17, for some odd reason, whatever was happening with me right then, I stepped back from the Lord and tried not to be as close. I'm going to be all cool when I can handle stuff myself. No, that's not happening. And I have learned that as I was going through life. I didn't stay back from him. But I'm just saying, we try to solve too much ourselves. We need to be willing to get up here if that's what he tells you, okay? And that's what happened today. Just listen and do and say what the Lord guides you to do, not what somebody... I'm tired, and I don't mean this disrespectful to y'all. We're not here to people please. If you like what I say, okay, and if you don't, that's okay too. Somebody needed it. But make sure that the path you're on is Jesus' path. That he's what's there, that you're looking at, that you're calling out to, and that you're even waiting on. Valerie has had to learn to wait. I'm a problem solver. If you can't go this way, I want to go another way right now. And sometimes that's not how it works. Sometimes you have to be patient and you have to say, Lord, I know you're taking care of this. Just help me to wait. So, wow, this turned out way different than I thought. Okay, but it's good. I had something to say just in case I didn't know that. But let me, and I could look at the pictures there because Nick was sweet enough to put them so I can see them on the screen. However, I'm going to do this. That was me in my huge glory. Okay, before everything started.
Is that a gerbil or a hamster?
I call it a hamster, but...
I think it's a guinea pig.
Oh, well, it could be something. Okay, this was me with my shoulder injury and the gig I had to wear I think that was after my surgery. This is the first Christmas after my Whipple surgery with my dear mama. Boy, we have been through the thick and the thin, and she's always there with me, keeping me going. Sarah, Kirby's friend, and Kirby on that side. So Sarah's the one who sent the teacup story that I'm going to pass out to y'all, give to y'all. It's amazing how much they all are like, this is the angel nurse, Sammy. That girl, I can't wait to see her. Please, Lord, unless she's got a job someplace else now. That could happen. She's really good. My cousin Doug, one, I wanted you to see that you can be a walking zombie and still survive. That was me. But Doug came, a total surprise. I didn't know he was coming, and I really needed to visit. So that's another thing. Writing cards, visiting, phone call, whatever you can do, reach out to folks. It means the world. And this is the car that I already talked about enough. I don't know what all they put in there now, but you can see where they sawed the windows and got things open. Yeah, it was nasty. But he took care of me. There's my son, daughter-in-law, and my 2 grandbabies, and we stayed at their house when I was recuperating, which was awesome. Impact. I don't remember that hitting, but boy, the sound will never go away. I'll tell you in a minute a little bit about the accident that I think is what. And like I said, this is, I was well enough after Christmas time when you saw Mom and I then. This was February before the pandemic started. Kirby had to have nasal surgery. That's what she says. Mom, look at my scab on my nose. But anyway, I was blessed by being well enough to go to see her, is what I was saying. Okay, so we're back to that. That's all my pictures, right? Yeah. What do I want to tell you about the accident? Oh, all I know with the accident was the road that I was on. Frank, you might, I think it's Williamsville Road, where that Unicow store is. There's a, on the highway outside of Harrington. Yeah, so there was a car in front of me, and I had stopped behind that. Then that car went and was in the lane that you merged, and I pulled up, looked, I remembered looking, and I told them, right now I can't remember, but it was either 2 or 3 car sets of lights, but they were very far back. And it was that time of night where it wasn't dark and it wasn't light, either one, it was in between. So what I really think in my heart is that there was another car that didn't have lights on, but there's no proof, there's no cameras, and I'm not a suing person, and because what good is that going to do? And it ended up being that the accident was a blessing anyway. So, but my point was, I think that I looked, the traffic lights or the car lights that I could see were far down. I pulled out, and this other vehicle, boom, right there where I was. I mean, they said if it had been another 4 feet, it would have been that impact that ripped the wheel off, would have been my body. So it happened just the way it needed to happen. The interesting thing is the lady who was driving with the vehicle that struck me, told the policeman, I didn't find this out then, I found it out later, that I didn't stop. I had come from Williamsville Road and that I wasn't stopped, that I pulled right on out into the traffic. And I knew I had stopped. That's the last thing I remember, was stopping behind another car. But the man who was merging, as he was about to merge, saw what happened. He stopped and told the policeman, he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have to argue with you. I was the car ahead of her. She was stopped and then pulled out." But he didn't say whether he did. I don't know what he told the police, but he didn't say whether he did or didn't see the other vehicle, whether there were lights. But at least the lady saying that I didn't stop at all, they knew that wasn't true. I had stopped. But I don't know. Anyhow, that's what happened. There's no hard feelings because it was a blessing. And so it sounds strange, but when things like this happen, you got to roll with it. You got to say, Jesus, do your stuff and make some good come out. And he will. Yeah. So I thank you for letting me share. Back on our refreshment table, I have 2 trays of teacups with some tea bags in them, and I'd like you to pick a teacup to take home for yourself and a copy of just the teacup story so that you can share. And this is what I would like. Okay, so we have, even if we have all of you, take a teacup. You don't have to be a mother, okay? But if you have a mom, a sister, a neighbor, a shut-in, if there's somebody that you want to give a cup and the story to, I would be very, very happy. And I'm sorry that the other gal left. I didn't think of that. But I would love them all to be gone. There's 14 of them. God, give me that number. So I would like you to take the teacups, and don't say, "Can I take the last one?" Yes, you can take whatever's there, okay? I love you. I thank you. And it feels really good, even if I end too much or was nervous or went off track, to just do what the Lord told me to do. Okay? Thank you.